There comes a point in every life where the noise gets too loud. The notifications, the deadlines, the unpaid bills, the silence of people who used to care, the ache of uncertainty about the future. All of it blends into a low, constant hum of pressure. And in the middle of that hum, many of us wake up each morning already feeling behind. Before our feet touch the floor, our minds are racing. What do I need to fix today? Who do I need to please? How can I hold it all together without falling apart? And slowly, without even realizing it, we stop living from the heart and start surviving from the schedule. But listen closely. That is not the life you were designed for. You see, the condition of your inner life, the posture of your heart, isn't just a nice thing to consider once a week when you have time. It's everything. It determines how clearly you can hear truth, how deeply you can love, how quickly you can heal. And if your heart is clenched with bitterness, worry, or resentment, don't be surprised if clarity seems far away. But here's the beautiful truth. Clarity doesn't come from control. It comes from surrender. It comes when you choose, even in chaos, to stop chasing answers and start cultivating gratitude. Gratitude is not just something you feel when life is good. It's a weapon when life is not. It's the act of saying, I may not understand everything around me, but I acknowledge something within me: breath, life, purpose, and hope. Gratitude doesn't ignore the pain. It places the pain in a larger context. It whispers, I may be hurting, but I'm not hopeless. I may have lost much, but I haven't lost everything. When you begin your day with thanksgiving, before you check your phone, before you revisit yesterday's stress, you begin your day with power. Because gratitude shifts your eyes from what's missing to what's present, from what's broken to what's possible. And that shift changes everything. But gratitude doesn't just clear your perspective. It opens your spirit. When you are thankful, you become more available, not just to people, but to wisdom, to correction, to divine insight. You hear better. You see sharper. Gratitude softens your heart so you don't live bitter, defensive, or numb. That's why it's so essential to build your mornings around it. Not because it's sentimental, but because it's spiritual. Start with the breath in your lungs, the roof over your head, the ability to try again. Even if your world feels shattered, there's always a shard of light if you're willing to look for it. And when you begin to name the good, even in small doses, your soul becomes ready to receive what is next. But here's the challenge. While gratitude builds, culture often distracts. And this is where most of us silently start slipping. We feed our bodies carefully. We protect our passwords fiercely. But when it comes to our hearts and minds, we let anything in. We scroll endlessly. We binge thoughtlessly. We listen to things that confuse us, envy people who don't know us, and consume content that leaves us emptier than we began. And then we wonder why our faith feels weak, our hope feels thin, and our focus feels scattered. What you consume daily either builds your faith or drains it. You don't need a rule book to know what's right. You just need honesty. If what you're watching, listening to, or talking about makes you feel more anxious, more envious, more cynical, more numb, it's not feeding your soul. And your soul is sensitive. It's not fragile, but it's sacred. Guard it like your future depends on it, because it does. This isn't about perfection. This is about wisdom. And wisdom says, if it doesn't lead to light, it's not worth your time. There's a subtle lie we often believe, that the small things we allow into our minds won't affect us that much. But what you feed grows. What you starve dies. This is a law, not a suggestion. If you feed comparison, it will grow. If you feed bitterness, it will bloom. But if you feed peace, if you feed faith, if you feed hope, your spirit will strengthen. Protect your focus. Curate your input. Be bold enough to say no to what drains you, even if everyone else is saying yes. Now let's talk about how you fill that space, because removing what's toxic is only half the battle. You need to replace the noise with something nourishing. And here's where the deepest transformation begins. The way you approach truth, especially spiritual truth, determines whether it simply passes through you or transforms you. Many of us were taught to read, study, or learn just to finish, to complete the task, to say we did it. But truth isn't meant to be consumed like a checklist. It's meant to be received like a conversation. You see, wisdom is not about how much you read. It's about how deeply you listen. And there is a difference between reading information and hearing transformation. When you open your heart with the posture of, "What are you saying to me today?" That's when everything begins to change. Truth is alive. It speaks. It convicts. It comforts. But it doesn't shout over noise. It waits for stillness. That's why you need to come into moments of reflection not with urgency, but with openness. Some days, when you're heavy, you may need to sit in stillness with a story that shows compassion. Other days, when you're confused, you may need words that bring clarity and direction. And in moments of discouragement, you may just need to be reminded of who you really are and whose you really are. But in every case, come slowly. Read with a pen in hand. Write down what stirs you. Speak out loud what challenges you. Reflect on what moves you. Don't rush the process. Transformation is never microwaved. It's marinated. So if you're tired of feeling like your soul is starving while your schedule is full, if you're tired of chasing peace in places that never satisfy, if you're longing to feel grounded, clear, and alive again, start here. With gratitude that opens, with discipline that protects, with truth that nourishes. The path forward isn't about doing more. It's about choosing better. Start with the posture of your heart, and everything else will begin to align. Because once your heart is clear, your steps will follow. Once your spirit is fed, your strength will rise. And once your ears are tuned in, you will hear again, not just with your mind, but with your whole life. There comes a time in life when you realize that noise isn't always external. Sometimes the loudest storms are the ones inside your own soul. You can be surrounded by silence and still feel overwhelmed, not because the world is shouting, but because your inner world is restless. You ask, why am I still stuck? Why do I keep falling back into the same patterns? Why can't I seem to change even though I want to? And in that quiet frustration, many people either numb out or give up. But let me tell you something. Change isn't about force. It's about flow. And you cannot experience lasting transformation until your heart is in agreement with what your mouth is speaking. But serving is hard when your heart is still guarded. And this leads us to one of the most difficult and most liberating disciplines Jesus ever taught: forgiveness. Let's be honest, forgiveness is not natural. When someone wounds you, the instinct is to retreat, protect, or retaliate. We carry grudges like weapons, hoping that if we hold onto them long enough, justice will be served. But what we don't realize is that bitterness punishes us more than it punishes anyone else. You may have every right to be angry. You may have every reason to feel betrayed. But you also have the right to be free. Forgiveness doesn't mean what happened was okay. It doesn't mean you have to trust again. It doesn't mean you forget. It means you're refusing to let pain become your identity. It means you're no longer waiting for an apology to release your peace. It means you're choosing to be whole, even if the other person never changes. And yes, it's hard. Sometimes it's daily. Sometimes it feels like dying. But every time you forgive, your heart gets lighter and your future gets brighter. Forgiveness isn't weakness. It's spiritual strength. It's not letting someone off the hook. It's letting yourself off the leash. And finally, none of this gratitude, discipline, confession, service, forgiveness, none of it can truly take root unless your relationship with God is personal and alive. That's why the final and most essential point is this: you must seek His presence daily, not just in emergencies, not just in church, but in the ordinary rhythm of your life, in the morning silence, in the lunch break walk, in the late night questions, in the kitchen, in the car, in the chaos, in the quiet. You are never truly alone, but you can live like you are if you don't seek Him. You don't need fancy words. You don't need long prayers. You just need a real heart. Come as you are. Speak like you would to a friend. Be honest. Be raw. If you're angry, say so. If you're tired, admit it. If you're confused, ask for help. God isn't waiting for a performance. He's waiting for permission to enter the realest parts of your life and flood them with truth. And when you make space for him, everything starts to shift. Your burdens get lighter. Your decisions get clearer. Your heart gets softer. And even in the middle of storms, your soul finds rest. So if you've been feeling lost, unsure, weighed down by life, hear this. Your healing is not in trying harder. It's in going deeper. Be honest. Be available. Be open. Release what's fake. Embrace what's true. And don't walk this journey alone. The life you long for, peaceful, focused, meaningful, it begins inside. And it begins now.